I finished my most anticipated read of the year, and now I don't know what to do. Hey guys, today I'm gonna review Assassin's Fate for you. As some of you may know, this is the one book that I have been looking forward to all year, and I just have a lot of things to say about it. It didn't feel right not to do a review for it, so here it is. I'm gonna try my best to be as organized as possible, but I'm still in a state of mild shock that it's over, so we'll see how well I can do this. So the first thing I want to say is that Assassin's Fate is the third book from the Fitz and the Fool trilogy and the 16th book from the Realm of the Elderlings series. So I've been reading this series for a few years now. I started way at the beginning with Assassin's Apprentice, so I was very excited for this book because again, it's the 16th book and it's just gonna be a culmination of everything that's happened in the previous books. Not only is it the last book in the Fitz and the Fool trilogy, but so far it sounds like it's the last book in the Realm of the Elderlings series. I know Robin Hobb has said that she doesn't know if this is it for that world. I'm hoping she keeps writing more because I absolutely love going back there. I think there are still things that we can explore, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Now, when it comes to Assassin's Fate, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this book. I loved it, but part of me also didn't, so it's a little bit tricky trying to review this, but I'm gonna talk about the things that I really liked and some things that didn't quite work for me. So the first thing is world building. So because this is a book that touches on a lot of different places that we've seen in the previous books, we do get to visit a lot of those familiar places in the past. I enjoyed that because it was nice to visit those places again, and it's nice to see how things have changed and the characters are in those places that we've met before. We get to see them again, what their life is like now. So in that aspect, I loved what Assassin's Fate has done with that. The second thing is that plot lines. So in terms of plot lines we've seen in the past from different books in the series, a lot of it come together in this book, which is very satisfying because we do get some answers to some questions that we've had. We have scenes that I know personally I've been hoping that we would get eventually, so in that sense that was very satisfying to see unfold. In terms of the plot of Assassin's Fate, I'm not going to tell you anything about it because it is very spoilery, so I will just say that in terms of plot, it's not a very complicated plot, it's very simple. That's okay because in true Hobb fashion, her book really did focus more on the characters, their journey, and what they go through. So if you haven't read any of Hobb's books before, they're very character driven, and I do enjoy that because I love good character development. That's what really gets me as a reader. So with Hobb, she is sometimes criticized for being slow in her books, and I do see that, I acknowledge it, and it is true. But what I will say is that her taking her time with her story really sets up her characters very well. So when they do things that they wouldn't have done, you know, hundreds of pages before or a book before, you understand why. And to me, that's brilliant. It's realistic. There's nothing that will be surprising to me because I have been with them through the beginning. I've seen them grow. I understand their fears, their desires, their suffering. So to me, that's perfect. It works for her. I think that's part of her strength. That being said, I do feel that in this book in particular, I felt that some of the characters were a little off. I don't know if it was because of the things that they went through, and if I think about it that way, I do understand their actions to a certain degree, but there's a part of me that still feels like some of the things that were said or that they did were a little bit for convenience of the plot, and it just didn't feel quite right. However, I will say that the good thing about the characters in this book is that yes, there is still that character development that you see in Hobb's books, but I also felt like there wasn't enough time spent on certain characters that she could have really fleshed out a bit more. There were certainly characters that she went back to from previous books to introduce here again and update us on what's been going on with them. In some ways, there was a lot of time spent there, which we didn't really need. Now, I don't know if I feel this way because I've read all 16. Perhaps if you have skipped some of the series or trilogies previously that doesn't relate to Fitz and the Fool story, You might need more of those characters' backgrounds to really understand what's going on, but I feel like she really could have spent a bit more time with the newer characters. And I say that as a good thing because if the side characters weren't as interesting as they are, I wouldn't really want to know about them. I wouldn't really care. So what I'm saying is Hobb is so good with fleshing out her characters that each one can really have their own book. Everyone could really be a protagonist in their own story, and it would be kind of cool to see how the story progresses in their point of view. What continues to amaze me about Hobb is that even when she introduces new characters, you still come to really care about them and be interested in how they'll do in the future. So that's what I love, because I don't think I've seen another author that has done that. Because I've read the Realm of the Elderlings series from the very start, I am more attached to these characters, so there are a lot of things that they go through that really affected me a lot, and that's part of why Assassin's Fate was a difficult read, because since it's the last book, I feel like it's expected that it won't be a comforting read. It's expected that we will lose some characters, so a huge part of me was just not ready to let some characters go. And again, that's a testament to how great she is at writing characters. They feel real. They absolutely feel like my friends and family, and I will miss them. And that's part of why I'm sort of struggling post, Assassin's Fate, because yes, I can reread the books, but it's not quite the same since I know how it all ends, and it's a struggle. Another thing that I also struggled with was the fact that there were some scenes that felt too sudden and convenient. That being said, I feel like she did need to do those things to close that chapter of a character's story, but I don't know, part of it just felt convenient. There were also times when certain events would happen to characters that just felt too sudden. The later half was definitely more action-packed, but also a little bit rushed. So Assassin's Fate starts off quite slowly, and it picks up a little bit in the middle, and then the last half is quite hard to put down. With this, especially being the last book, I feel like she could have paced it a little bit better. So one of the things that I struggled with was the beginning of the book. Now, keep in mind that I still enjoyed reading it, and when it finally picked up, I wanted it to slow down, but there were parts in the beginning that was quite repetitive, and I do understand that it helped shape some of the characters to become who they are later on, but at the same time I feel like that part could have been a little bit more polished. So I do feel like the beginning could have been shorter and the last half of the book could have been a little bit longer. There were just a lot of things that could have been written about. There were some questions that weren't answered. There were certain promises that weren't fulfilled, and it just left me a little bit unsatisfied with how it all turned out. When I compare the third book to the two previous books in this trilogy, I do feel like the third, even though it had me more emotional than the first two, definitely didn't feel as polished, and I think that's why my rating is a little bit lower than I expected it would be. I will say that the ending is very fitting. It's probably not my first choice on how it could have ended, but there was finality to it. But Hobb also kept it open enough that if she wanted to go back to this world, she can. I still had some questions in the end that she could answer in the future, which I hope she will. But there was something about that ending that left me underwhelmed, because I do wonder what will happen next. And I also felt a little bit of a contradiction in terms of what happened. If you've read the book, I hope you kind of know what I mean. So in that sense, while it is a very fitting ending, it just left me wanting more. I felt like I didn't get the payoff that I was expecting and that I really looked forward to. So it was a bit of a letdown. I still ended up giving the book 4 out of 5 stars. It's not as high as I thought it would be, but I feel like this rating is just right in terms of the things that didn't work for me and why it left me a bit dissatisfied. So that's pretty much how I feel about Assassin's Fate. I am quite sad that it's over, but I am looking forward to what Hobb writes in the future. I hope she comes back to this world. It's a beautiful world with just a lot of things that we can continue to explore. If you've never read anything by Hobb before, and if you're curious and want to start from the beginning, I recommend starting with the Farseer Trilogy and then going on to the Liveship Trilogy and then the Tawny Man Trilogy. And then next would be the Rainwild Chronicles, and lastly the Fitz and the Fool Trilogy. A part of me does feel like you could stop at the Tawny Man Trilogy. Fool's Fate is still my favorite of Hobbs' books. It's the third book in the Tawny Man Trilogy, so what you could do is do Farseer, Liveship, and Tawny Man. Overall, will I recommend that you read them all? Yes, because again, it will show you how incredible Hobb is as a writer in terms of, you know, having this huge realm with a huge cast of characters, but then having them all interconnected and seeing certain crossovers that are just so satisfying. And she deals with a lot of things with these series, and again, if you love character-driven stories, these books are for you. You're going to go on this journey with these characters that are going to become your friends, your family, and you're just going to love them. So I'm planning to read the series again from the very beginning. At some point this year, a few friends and I are going to have a read-along that we will host on Instagram. So if you're interested in following us for details, I will leave some information down below. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!